Hello everyone, this is Frank DeFreitas, and I'd like to welcome you to another week of HoloTalk for the week of December 20th, 1999, and this will be the final HoloTalk show of this year. We will return once again after the new year, probably, let me see if I can find my calendar here. Looks like probably will be January 9th, the week of January 9th. 2000. So I'd like to take this opportunity that if you happen to celebrate this holiday season, to wish you a happy holiday and hope that you'll come back and tune into more HoloTalk shows for the year 2000. I've got a number of guests lined up for interviews on the shows as well. To start off, I'd like to thank many of the listeners who offered to send in past HoloTalk shows from this year, from fall on. I had them in a folder on the hard drive, and I didn't have them backed up like I have the other HoloTalk shows backed up. And you know how it goes. I grabbed that folder, took it down to the trash for some reason, and emptied that trash, and bye-bye HoloTalk shows for the entire season so far. But thanks to a number of HoloTalk listeners, I think we're pretty close to having the entire season rebuilt. In fact, one HoloTalk listener just went ahead and put them all on discs and shipped them to me, which was very nice. So thank you very much. I will give an update right after the new year just in case one or two of them are still missing, and I will let you know if any additional shows are needed to fill that up. And what I'll do over the holiday is go onto the archive page and get all of the shows back up on the archive page so that you can listen to not only the shows from 2 years ago or last year, but all of the shows from this season so far as well. Moving on, a few news items. This is more general interest, I guess, than news, but Bill Pugh, who is the teacher who had a hand in rewriting the new state standards for communication technologies in the state of Florida, having holography written into that for next school year, came up to Allentown to visit the studio and do some work, and we took a few of his laser pointers and his laser diodes and put them on the table. He was having difficulty getting images, and we wanted to test to see what the trouble was. So among a number of other things that he was up here for as well. So we took the laser diodes and I set up an interferometer, and I found something very, very interesting. And he had an infinitor, which is what Steve Michael and I have been using for quite some time to create the laser diode holograms or laser pointer holograms. And that showed a real nice pattern of fringes. Not very stable. I mean, there were times when it was stable, but every so often it would sort of like throw a little bit of a fit, and the fringes would move, or they'd go away, or do this and that. And it happened every so often. You know, the fringes would come back in and seemed really nice, and then it would happen again. You know, they'd start to drift. But, you know, for $14.99, that's certainly to be expected. What was really interesting is he also ordered a few other laser pointers or laser diodes, however you want to term them. One of them was for a gun sight on a gun. Obviously, that's why it's called a gun sight, for a handheld gun. And he said he was not able to ever get a successful hologram using this gun sight. So, you know, I reviewed the material, and it looked like a very nice setup. Had a 635 nanometer diode, collimating lens. It provided a beautiful beam. I mean, this beam looked cleaner than any helium neon laser beam I've ever seen come out of a tube. And very sharp and very nice-looking beam, which you would think that this would be able to create holograms. But I put it on the interferometer, and would you believe we could not even get fringes? Nothing. It was that bad. He also had I guess you would call it a module. It was the laser diode in housing and it also had the chip sticking out of the back of the laser diode housing with 2 pigtail wires coming off of it that you connected your battery to. And we put that up there as well. I don't know if he tested. I can't really remember from the other day whether he said he tested it making holograms and wasn't successful with it or not, or whether he even used it at all. But once again, I put it on the interferometer, and there were fringes, but they were very light gray. And in fact, if you didn't know what to look for, you wouldn't have seen or noticed the fringes at all, which leads us to believe that it's not always possible to use anything when it comes to these diodes and diode modules to make holograms. And, we're going to have to find out what you can use and what you can't use. If someone all of a sudden decided that they wanted to order that gun sight and try to make holograms with it, they'd be completely out of luck, because no matter how hard I tried, we could not even get any fringes at all with the laser light. Now, I don't know whether this has anything to do with the drive circuit or whether it's the diode. I imagine a 635 nanometer diode is going to be a 635 nanometer diode. My guess, and this is just from working with them to begin with, and my guess is as good as anyone else's out there on this as far as this goes, is that the answer basically is in the drive circuitry. I think you could probably take one of those diodes and just hook it up to a more accurate power supply driver, and all of a sudden you'd notice that you have fringes. This may be true, this may not be true, but that's the feeling that I get. And it's very important, if you're deciding to start with laser diode holography, that you be very careful in what you buy. Now, we do know the Infinitors work very well for $14.99. I think he paid a pretty hefty price for this gun sight, and it turns out it's not capable of making a hologram at all. Very interesting, but I think a lot of this has to do with the drive circuit, and it's quite possible. Now, I know when I was reading the instructions, it said that it actually had an adjustable potentiometer on there, adjustable resistor, where you could turn down the drive current. I really should have turned that down a little bit and seen if that helped, because it may be overdriving it. In order for it to be a gun sight and cover as much distance as possible, they may actually have that variable resistor set so high that fringes are just destroyed when you put it onto a interferometer. It's just overdriving too much. So that may be the problem right there. But who wants to go through all that trouble? In any case, just to show him what nice fringes are like, I set up the DNS laser that Sam and I designed and put that on the interferometer, and he really almost fell. In fact, he fell over to the point of buying one. So unfortunately, we're sold out of the units, but he's going to have one shipped to him right after the new year. Okay, moving on. I have an announcement here from Steve Michael, and Steve is working on a continuation of the shoebox holography guide that I have, and it's going to be an advanced booklet where you can do, actually the title is going to be Advanced Techniques in Laser Pointer Holography, and it's going to be built around the shoebox holography system, and we're looking forward to that. In fact, he has some things on here that I can say, and some things he wants to just keep a lid on until things are together in about 4 weeks. But he did do a master to copy. That's an H1H2 fiber optic technique using the shoebox holography method of just the little vibration isolation feet and laser pointers and things of that nature. So he's going to write up these advanced techniques, put them into a little booklet, and offer them on his website. And according to this email, that should be available in about 4 weeks or so. So you want to keep track of what Steve is doing by visiting his website at www.3dimagery.com. His website's also listed right on the link page, the holography link page at my site, if you'd like to go over there and visit. So we'll be looking forward to seeing that book come out. And speaking of Steve Michael, I was just on the phone with him earlier this evening. And you know, Steve and I, we've worked on this laser pointer thing for quite some time. He went off continuing his investigation and different techniques with laser pointers. I stayed with that for a while and then moved on to working with the higher power diode lasers, which eventually led to the system that Sam and I developed from some of the shortcomings that I found, that both of us found in the higher power laser diodes. And, you know, Steve and I, we don't actually see things eye to eye at times. And we're going to put a show together where we can both come on and sort of like go back and forth a little bit on how he thinks about certain things, how I think about certain things. Like, for instance, Steve's real big on split beam holograms. I'm not. I'm real big, and I think the future is going to be advanced single beam holograms. But who knows what it's going to be, but you'll have an opportunity to come on and hear both of us talk about it and give our points and counterpoints on the air, hopefully maybe once a month, where we can both get together, sort of like Siskel and Ebert does with the movies, only we're going to do this with holography. And there's a number of different things that Steve and I are on opposite sides of the coin with, and this will be a nice way for us to get together and really wrestle it out, so to speak. And we'll do that on the air, and you can come on and tune in and listen to those shows, and it should be a lot of fun. Right, Steve? All right, got an email from Dr. Salim Valera. And this is very interesting here. Steve, pay attention because this is about single beam work. Dr. Valera is a research scientist at the Manchester Metropolitan University in UK, England. And I'd like to read what he wrote to HoloTalk that he would like to have, or would like to share with the HoloTalk listeners. Hi, Frank. In your latest HoloTalk, you gave several good reasons as to why single beam holography is now preferable over split beam techniques. As you know, small green, frequency doubled, and blue diode lasers are also readily available on the market. It is only a matter of time before they become affordable to the average hobbyist. This opens up the possibilities of real, full-color holography. The trouble with three-color transmission holograms recorded on a single emulsion is the crosstalk between the various fringes. So, if a master transmission hologram is recorded simultaneously with red, green, and blue beams, and is then illuminated for an image plane transfer, the red beam is diffracted by the blue and green fringes as well as the red fringes, resulting in multiple images in the transfer plane. This is not a problem with single beam reflection holograms due to their strong Bragg selection properties. Once the three beams have been suitably combined, the setup for full-color reflection holograms is exactly the same as for the single-beam monochrome setup. Further, if an image plane hologram is required, the image can be pulled forward using the transfer technique described in your HoloTalk. The Bragg selection of the wavelengths again prevents crosstalk. I believe that full-color holography will be within reach of most amateurs within 5 years, and that this is the most important reason for perfecting the single-beam technique. I would like to hear your views. Regards, MS Valera. I thank him very much for sending this, and, well, I'll tell you what, maybe the first show that Steve and I do where we can go back and forth, we can have it as single beam versus split beam. What will happen in the future? Points and counterpoints. So tune into that show. I spoke with Steve earlier tonight, and he thought it was a good idea too. He's up for it. He's game, so to speak. And we hope that when we have our first show available for you, that you'll tune in and also send us your comments on the show as well. Well, that about wraps it up, folks. This is the end of 1999. I'm not going to get into whether it's the end of the millennium or not, because some people seem to think that it is, and some people seem to think that it isn't, and this and that. But I will wish everyone a very happy holiday season, and also a very happy new year. Of course, this is the last year of the 1900s. I don't think anyone can argue that. So holography is now moving into a new age as well. And if I've been able to do anything to help it move forward and continue in its growth, I feel very honored to do so. And I also feel very honored that you choose to tune into the show each and every week as well. I have a number of guests that are going to be lined up, starting with the HoloTalk that we'll be providing the week of January 9th. And I hope that you decide to come back and listen until we go until Memorial Day of the year 2000. So this is Frank DeFreitas for HoloTalk. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you after the new year. Take care. God willing, of course. Take care.